Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Jan Sewing Solutions. Now this dress was actually quite a mammoth task, considering the fact that it was supposed to have been like a fairly easy thing to do. Unfortunately, when these dresses are sold, they are sold under the assumption that they're partly stitched and half your work will be saved. Unfortunately, that is far from the truth, especially when it's a lousy craftsmanship on the way the borders and so on are attached. Now the main problem with these suits is that the natural flow of the fabric is when the fabric is cut on the grain. This is cut on the cross grain where the fall is actually then hindered, and sometimes there is a slight bit of a twist in the cutting and so on as well, and that then adds to the problem, especially when when so many pieces are different pieces, different textures are used as well. So with this suit, the lace that was used as an insert was it was too flexible. It wasn't stable enough to be sewn in between. So what that did was, when this garment has been stitched, it was almost on a slant, and obviously the dress then twisted towards the back. Now the customer who bought this actually stitched it twice and unpicked it, and then stitched it again and unpicked it, and then finally couldn't get her head around what was the problem and ended up phoning me. Now, in order to fix the problem, you first of all have to recognize the problem, and when we laid this down on the table, the instant recognition was that there was a fair bit of pulling on the center, and if you lifted it from one corner, the other corner was sort of twisting, and if you stood it up, then you could tell physically where the problems were. And in order to remedy those problems, we had to actually pull the whole thing apart and then reassembled. Now when it came to the reassembling, I looked at the possibilities of attaching it back to the original state, which was the picture. It seems to have gone walkies. And now the original picture, what that shows us is the model is actually sitting down and the suit is shown with obviously in a pose which is not actually, is showing the full impact of the dress itself, but it's not showing what the dress will look like once the model is standing up. Obviously you're not going to be just sitting down, and if you're going to stand up and if the corners are not going to hang right, then you've got a serious problem. Now the border on this initially was the other way around. This side was the top side and that side was the bottom side. Unfortunately, this had a flexibility where the width of this was wider than this end. Because the dory is used here, what happens with dory is it slightly decreases the fabric, whereas there's no stitching here on the bottom of the fabric, so we've got a more of like a better fall rather than having this the opposite way around. So I swapped that around, restitched the hole by pressing it, fixing it to making sure that it was all stable. The lace that was supposed to have gone at the front, I've added that to the back. Initially what I wanted to do was add a heavy lace to the bottom of it to give it a drop. Now unfortunately I didn't have any lace in cream, so I left that out. Instead I utilized and I twisted that lace around. Now sewing something which has been stitched and unpicked, and especially if you're used to a particular cutting method and then you've gone and been handed a garment which is being cut by someone else, it does present you with problems. So I had to try and remedy wherever I could. Now luckily it looks fairly decent. The other thing that I've done is I think she's tried to attach the lining with it, but the lining was cut slightly less. So what I've done is I've attached it on the shoulders, but I've let the lining drop on its own, so that it gives it a better fall. Because of the fact that the embroidery on the dress is quite heavy, when you add another piece, especially when the fabric is such a thick fabric as this, if it was a light like a dupatta type of chiffon, then I wouldn't have minded it connecting it to this. But because this is a heavier lining, it sort of presents a problem when you've got the two combined and hung together. Anyway, that's just a remedy and a solution for you. I hope you found the video helpful. Inshallah, this is my new location. I'm finally in my purpose-built workroom, which I will give you a glimpse and a demonstration of hopefully very soon, as soon as I've got everything organized and put into place.